I welcome you to my channel. Subscribe and listen to my new stories every day. The clock read 3:07 a.m. The house was steeped in an uneasy quiet, the kind that magnifies every small sound into a suspect whisper. I lay awake, eyes fixed on the dim ceiling, as my wife's gentle breathing shifted into something else, murmurs, soft and indistinct. At first, it seemed innocuous, a dreamer's ramble. But then, clarity cut through the silence. "Oh, Marcus, yes," she sighed, her voice thick with emotion. I froze. My heart pounded against my ribs like a drum, loud in the dead of night. We knew no Marcus. At least, none that I was aware of. Each whispered word from her lips twisted a knot tighter in my stomach. The next morning, under the harsh light of reality, I watched her across the breakfast table. She was as beautiful and composed as ever, her smile reaching her eyes, but something behind it had shifted. "Sleep well?" I asked, my voice casual. "Like a baby," she replied, buttering her toast. "You look tired though, James. Bad night?" "Just some weird dreams," I murmured, my mind racing. Was it really just a dream for her? A strange man's name, uttered with such longing, my skin crawled with suspicion. Over the next few days, I became a silent observer, noting every late phone call, each unexplained outing. The pieces began to fall ominously into place. My denial was shattered one chilly Thursday evening when I returned home earlier than usual. A foreign melody played from the living room, a tune unfamiliar yet hauntingly beautiful. Stepping quietly, I reached the living room entrance. The scene before me was a visceral blow. There, entwined in intimacy on our very couch, was my wife and a man with a silver saxophone. His fingers danced expertly over the gleaming instrument, the source of the melody that had greeted me. His other arm wrapped around her, lost in their musical and physical embrace. The betrayal was stark, the pain immediate. They hadn't noticed my arrival, too caught up in their performance. Every note he played stabbed at my heart, a symphony of betrayal. "Beautiful, isn't it?" I finally said, my voice breaking their trance. The saxophone's note faltered and died as they scrambled apart. Her eyes, wide with shock, met mine, the truth naked between us. "James, Save it," I cut her off, my mind coldly calculating as the initial wave of anger settled into something darker, more deliberate. "I hope he's worth it." The following weeks were a blur of cold silence and covert planning. My revenge wasn't loud or violent, it was calculated and cruel. I hired a private investigator and gathered every shred of evidence. Photos, messages, rendezvous, it all painted a vivid picture of deceit. In the heart of our small town, reputation was everything. I made sure their affair was not just a private shame but a public spectacle. Carefully, I placed evidence where it was bound to be found, watching as the dominoes fell, shattering their lives bit by bit. Her lover, a prominent musician in our community, watched his career disintegrate under the scandal. As for her, friends and family turned their backs, disgusted by the deceit. When the divorce papers were served, she was a shell of the woman I had married. "Please, James, can we not just talk?" "There's nothing left to say," I stated, void of the love that had once consumed my heart. The papers crinkled in her hands, a final testament to our ruined vows. I walked away from the wreckage of our marriage, the echoes of her pleading voice fading into a past that felt like fiction. I never saw them again, my heart sealed off from the betrayal, my mind only occasionally wandering to the haunting melody that had played the soundtrack of my ruin. Thus began my story, a tale of love, betrayal, and cold revenge. The rest, however fraught with twists and intrigue, would unfold with time. Days turn into weeks, and the quiet of my now solitary home becomes a breeding ground for a relentless echo of the past. Every corner of this place, every shadow cast by the setting sun, reminds me of a life that once promised forever but delivered betrayal. Despite the icy resolve that fuels my actions, a simmering rage persists, a desire to confront the deeper truths behind her infidelity. On a cool, overcast morning, I decide it's time to face Marcus. I need to understand, need to hear it from the man who trespassed into my life, why he did it. I find him at a local jazz club where he used to play, a spot now tainted by scandal. The club is nearly empty, save for a few lingering patrons and Marcus, nursing a drink at the bar, his saxophone case beside him, a symbol of his fallen grace. "Marcus," I call out as I approach, my voice steady, devoid of the warmth once offered to a stranger. He turns, his face a mixture of surprise and resignation. "James. I didn't expect to see you here. We need to talk." He nods slowly, gesturing to the seat next to him. "I owe you that much, at least." The bartender gives us a wide berth as we sit. The air is heavy with the scent of stale beer and lost dreams. "Why her? Why my wife?" I ask, cutting straight to the core of my torment. Marcus sighs, his eyes not meeting mine. "It wasn't planned, James. It started with music, she loved to hear me play. One thing led to another, and..." His voice trails off, laden with regret. "And you didn't think of me? Of what you were destroying?" My voice rises slightly, anger threading through my words. He shakes his head, his hands clenched around his glass. "I did, but it was like a drug. The more we were together, the more we wanted to be. I'm sorry, James. Truly, I am." "Sorry doesn't even begin to cover it," I snap. The bartender casts a wary glance our way. "I know I ruined lives. Not just yours. Mine too. After everything came out. I've lost everything. My career, my reputation. I'm playing in dive bars now, just to make rent." I study his face, looking for any hint of deceit. But all I see is a man broken by his own actions. It doesn't quench my thirst for retribution, but it sparks a different question. "And her? What did she say about all this?" I probe, needing to understand the full extent of the betrayal. "She's devastated, James. She loved you, in her way. But she got caught up in, whatever this was between us. She regrets it, deeply." I let out a bitter laugh. "Loved me? You have a twisted way of showing it." Silence falls between us, heavy and uncomfortable. Marcus finally looks up, his gaze steady. "What are you going to do now?" The question hangs in the air, and for a moment, I'm unsure myself. Revenge has consumed me, but what is left after the fire of vengeance burns out? I don't know, I admit, the weight of the admission settling on my shoulders. But this isn't over. Not yet. Leaving Marcus behind, I step out into the chill of the early evening, the sky a tapestry of darkening clouds. As I walk, the city seems to echo my turmoil, its streets a maze reflecting my conflicted soul. The revenge I've sought has brought no peace, only more questions, more shadows. As I make my way home, a plan begins to form, a way to expose not just the infidelity but the lies and secrets that led to this destruction. If my heart can't find peace in forgiveness, maybe it will find it in the truth, no matter how dark it may be. The restless nights have become a common occurrence since the night I caught them. Each evening brings a heavy blanket of solitude and reflection, punctuated by my relentless quest for closure. My mind spins with the fragments of my shattered trust, assembling them into a mosaic that reveals a broader deceit. I realize that mere revenge isn't enough, I need full disclosure, the entire truth behind her betrayal. Armed with this new resolve, I decide to confront her directly, a confrontation I've meticulously planned. It's time for answers, not just the echoes of her confessions in dreams or the fragmented truths from Marcus. My heart pounds with a cocktail of dread and determination as I drive to her new apartment, a modest place on the outskirts of town, far from the home we once shared. I knock firmly on the door. Seconds tick by until it swings open, revealing her, visibly startled to see me. "James. What are you doing here? We need to talk, Ella, I state, my voice betraying none of the turmoil inside. She hesitates, then steps aside to let me in. The apartment is sparsely furnished, the walls devoid of the vibrant paintings she used to love. The starkness mirrors the emptiness between us. Talk then, she says, crossing her arms defensively. I look around, then back at her. I met with Marcus. He told me everything. But I need to hear it from you. Why, Ella? Why did you do it? She flinches as if struck, her facade crumbling for a moment. I don't know, James. It wasn't something I planned. It just happened. That's not good enough. Not after everything we had, I press, my voice hard. She walks to the window, her back to me, shoulders tense. I felt lost, James. You were always so busy, so distant. Marcus, he listened. He was there. So, you decided an affair was the solution? I challenge, frustration boiling over. It wasn't like that at first. But, yes, it turned into something I couldn't control. I'm sorry, James. I truly am. Her apology hangs in the air, dissatisfying and hollow. I need more than her remorse. Did you ever think about me? About us? She turns, tears glistening in her eyes. Every single day. And I hated myself for it. But by then, it was too late. I was too involved. Her vulnerability pierces the armor I've built around my heart. Yet, it's not enough to douse the flames of betrayal. And now? What now, Ella? I don't know. I lost everything too, James. I'm trying to rebuild, but I know I can't fix what I broke. I nod, the gravity of our ruin settling in. You're right. It can't be fixed. A pause, then, I'm going to make sure this never happens to someone else because of you. Your family, your friends, they should know who you really are. Her face drains of color. You wouldn't. I already have. Your parents, your sister, your closest friends, they all know now. They know everything. Ella sinks into a chair, defeated. So, this is it. You're just going to destroy me. Not destroy. Expose, I correct her sharply. You did this to yourself, Ella. Leaving her to her desolation, I walk out, the door closing with a definitive thud behind me. As I drive away, the weight of our final exchange lingers, heavy and complex. There's no satisfaction in this retribution, no joy in her downfall. Instead, there's a hollow victory, purchased at the cost of our shared past and my lingering love. The city feels different tonight, its usual vibrancy muted, as if it too senses the impending storm. My resolve has never been clearer. I've exposed Ella and Marcus, but the final act of my revenge is yet to unfold. It must be decisive, a closure that leaves no doubt, no return to the past. Tonight, I will end everything that ties me to them, severing the last strings with a plan that will ensure they never forget the cost of their betrayal. I drive to the jazz club where I first confronted Marcus, knowing that tonight he is scheduled to play a desperate gig, his attempt at clawing back some semblance of a career. The parking lot is dimly lit, shadows pooling between the sparse street lights. I wait, the minutes ticking by slowly, each one sharpening my anticipation. Marcus arrives, hauling his instrument case from the trunk of a battered car. He pauses, sensing a presence as he catches sight of me standing in the darkness. James. What are you doing here? Haven't you done enough? His voice is weary, resigned. Not yet, I reply, stepping into the light, my demeanor calm but eyes burning with a cold fire. He sighs, setting down his case. Look, I'm sorry for everything. I never meant to. Save it. I'm not here for apologies. I'm here for finality. My voice is flat, a stark contrast to the tremor of rage beneath. Marcus looks around, unease creeping into his posture. What do you mean? I pull out a small recorder from my jacket, a device that has been capturing every word. This, I say, holding it up. Everything you've said, every admission, is here. And it's going to the one place that will ensure you never play again. The press, Marcus. Your story of betrayal will headline tomorrow's news. His face blanches. You can't. Please, I'm begging you. I've lost everything already. That's the point, I snap, my control slipping momentarily. You took what was mine, and now I'll take all that's left of you. I leave him there, standing alone with the weight of impending doom. My next stop is Ella's. The drive over is quick, the streets empty and silent like the calm before a storm. She opens the door on the first knock, her eyes widening in panic when she sees me. James. What are you? I'm here to end this, I interrupt, stepping inside without invitation. I've exposed you to everyone who matters. But there's one last piece left. What are you talking about? She stammers, backing away. I throw a folder onto the table. Inside are photographs, messages, evidence of her infidelity, gathered meticulously over the past weeks. This goes public tomorrow. Your name, your face, everything. The whole city will know the truth about you. Her knees buckle, and she grips the back of a chair for support. James, please. I'm already nothing. Why can't you just let me rebuild my life in peace? Because you destroyed mine, I say coldly. You and Marcus chose this path, not me. Now, you get to walk it to the end. Leaving her to her despair, I walk out, a bitter taste in my mouth. The final pieces of my plan slot into place with a resolute click. As I drive away, the weight of what I've done, and what I've become, settles around me like a cloak. I've avenged the betrayal, but at what cost? The next day, the city wakes to scandal. Headlines scream the lurid details of a jazz musician and a once-beloved wife turned pariahs. My phone is silent, my home quieter than ever, the ghosts of the past finally laid to rest. But the victory is hollow, the taste of revenge ash in my mouth. In the end, we part forever, tied only by our mutual hatred of betrayal, each of us isolated in our respective exiles. The truth has been revealed, the deceptions laid bare, and the final chapter of our story closes with a stark, unforgiving finality. As I watch the sun rise over the city, free from the shadows of deceit, I realize the cost of my revenge has been my own soul.